often, lotteries are limited not by their imaginations, but by the hours available in each day. Their vendor is delivering as they said they would, yet there still isn't enough time to add new enhancements to their systems. How can lotteries free up more time to deliver on the projects they want to do, not just the ones they need to do? This problem can be helped by making integrations easier and utilizing technology outside of the core vendor system. Components such as the secondary draw system, for example, can allow lotteries to develop new draw games without the expense or logjam caused by end-to-end technology and a single development calendar. A secondary development calendar gives lotteries the opportunity to try new things, with the freedom to have failures without a hefty consequence. Here with more on that from EQL Games, we're joined by Brad Cummings, Chief Executive Officer, and Austin Mayberry, Chief Technology Officer. If you have any questions during the presentation, please use the Q&A box at any time, and feel free to use the chat box as well to speak with other attendees. Now, please welcome Brad Cummings and Austin Mayberry.
Hi, I'm Brad Cummings.
And I'm Austin Mayberry, CTO of EQL Games.
And I'm the CEO of EQL Games. And as the introduction says, we're here to talk about a concept that we've started to develop in our time in the industry, where we've seen competing priorities really become an issue for lotteries. We've been looking at how do we give lotteries a chance to transcend beyond the existing paradigm of lottery technology and implementation. And we call this two development calendars are better than one. So the product delivery funnel for state lotteries, lotteries are dynamic, quick-paced businesses with many needs. Many of those needs are fulfilled by a systems vendor and a single development calendar. We've seen firsthand just how good the primary vendors are at what they do, but a quickly evolving world has increased those needs. And no matter how good you are, you can't do everything. So that makes those resources limited. We've even seen well-planned development calendars be upended by unforeseen projects. I know that even products that we've put out in the market have been delayed because of a Powerball change or something along those lines that's just not able to be seen by a lottery at the time in which they make a commitment. Most recently is the Powerball third sales day that's hit each lottery and has pushed back calendars 2-3 months. And so that challenge that is created is how do we create a smoother path for competing priorities when there are just too many projects put in the development funnel. And there has to be a better way. I mean, of course, in a perfect world, every lottery project would receive equal focus, but we're never going to live in that perfect world, no matter how good we build this mousetrap. And that just, and even still, we can't even get close to that without the proper resources. Austin, you're new to the lottery industry. You came on during the pandemic, actually the very beginning of it. So you haven't had a lot of exposure to the industry, and people don't really know you or your background. And I think it's one of the most compelling things about having you on our team is your background in fintech. Would you just take a little bit of time, give us some of a little bit of a bio, but then sort of bring that to the idea, like, have you seen this sort of logjam problem in other industries, and have you seen sort of solutions for it, or how have you seen that affect other industries that you've been involved in?
Well, yeah, Brad, I mean, definitely in my background, I worked in the financial industry for 17 years for various asset managers, Deutsche Bank, Invesco, the Commonwealth Bank of Australia, and there was broad classes of problems, cross-cutting concerns that each of those firms dealt with that weren't on their critical path, but were things that they all had to deal with that took time away from their core business, whether it was operational aspects, trading systems, reporting. There were things that we definitely turned to outside systems vendors that had a financial industry expertise, but a core competency that allowed us to offload some of our workload to them, and that made it easier for us to focus on the core business that we were interested in. And then a lot of times those secondary vendors were also, much more in tune with innovation in the software industry broadly, because they weren't, solely in the financial industry. That they were more software practitioners.
Yeah, and I assume you saw that as a developer with a Deutsche Bank or Invesco or whoever. You saw that as a positive, not somebody coming in and trying to go to eat lunch, right? I mean,
absolutely. I mean, these were not people that were trying to take over our business. They were supplementary and added consulting and expertise to our workload.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, that's really the point of this. One of the things we really want to drive home is that, you have an excellent systems vendor. We have really good relationships with all three major vendors, and we see the incredible work they do. And so I guess sort of naturally would say, why do I need a secondary technology partner? And that's really sort of the driver of the idea of the secondary development calendar. Is you have to have somebody drive that, and that would be a technology partner that's outside of your core vendor. The dedicated resources for overflow needs. One of the things that we want to talk about as we go through this concept is, there would be a benefit to having a secondary technology partner that actually had a contractual relationship with the lotteries. It creates better leverage for being able to develop innovative product opportunities, making fewer this or that decisions. I either want this or that. Well, we'd love for you to be able to have both. Take advantage of tech advances during your primary vendor contract without uprooting current system. There's nobody who can create a system today that's going to be able to be the system it needs to be in 10 years. And so how do you kind of bridge that gap over that 10-year period? And then new revenue generating initiatives receive full attention instead of just taking care of those things that are immediate. Austin, do you have any examples of sort of how a secondary vendor could have worked in a previous life?
Oh yeah. I mean, we definitely had vendors we worked with that did everything from data providers and integrators, business intelligence tools that we needed to use, all the way up to, say, Bloomberg, which provided terminals and access to unique take on data and tools for people to communicate across the industry. And these were all vendors that were supplementary to our core business. They had their own technology, their own resources to bear on a situation, and they were able to carve out some of the problems that we had. So again, we could focus on our core business and our core technology, which didn't need to be distracted by some of these things that were already solved by some of these other systems vendors.
Yeah, and we were talking the other day. One of the things I found interesting is, like, Bloomberg's a great example of a terminal that everybody has in their trading on their trading floor. It has really important information, and yet even Bloomberg, there are data points beyond what Bloomberg provides, which is the gold standard of the industry. And so there's even secondaries to a secondary. Would that be a fair way of putting it?
Yeah, Bloomberg's a good example because they ingest data from a lot of other data providers, and then we would work alongside them to bring some of that data in and supplement it with other data. So there was a confluence of data providers and technology. Bloomberg provided a lot of APIs that we could interact with, either from our spreadsheets or from our backend systems. So it made it that they provided a lot of services that we could interact with, and as did our other systems providers. So our solutions were our own core technology combined with some of these other either consulting services or supplemental systems.
Yeah, I think it's really important that part of the point of this presentation is to show that what we're talking about here, we're not actually really inventing anything new. We're bringing some best practices from other industries into the lottery industry and suggesting that that's a way to move things forward. So, let's look at the role of a secondary technology partner as we see it today. This is an evolving concept. I'm sure if I gave this presentation a year from now, it would look different. And that's not only just okay, but that's optimal. But for right now, as we see it, there's sort of 6 tenets that we think that a secondary technology partner could help accomplish, and they could do 1, 5, 6 of them. It sort of depends on the situation and the needs of the lottery. So, offer technology that can handle project overflow. So is there a piece of technology that you could have that would say handle draw games, or could it handle an ICS, or some of these more micro technology components? How does that work? Develop unique content opportunities. Again, no one can be everything, and the idea that you would be able to have a technology partner that was really always looking out for that next hot content opportunity. We know content is king, that players go to a scratch off, to play scratch off tickets because they changed often and the content is different. And how do we take that same concept and bring it into other parts of the industry? We create new solutions customized for immediate lottery needs. So, not only will there be maybe a secondary technology partner who has long-term needs that are already kind of obvious, but you have someone who can really respond to needs that are immediate, unforeseen. That would be number 3. Number 4 is serve as a pathway for third-party integrations. We've been in the middle of the integrations ourselves. We know the pain points there. And if there was a way for someone to be able to come in and be able to manage those and take that off your primary vendor's plate, would that be a benefit? Would that be of use for your lottery? I have to imagine, yes, that could really help out if you could be able to do an integration alongside other projects. Number 5, how do you take your mobile app and the features around the mobile app, whether you're doing iLottery or you're just doing a player engagement tool? How would you take that those products and transcend even what these top vendors who are now in that space are bringing to the table? Is it helpful to have a second set of eyes there? And then number 6, and I'll say this probably several times, number 6 is 6 for a reason. This is probably more for lotteries that don't have a robust ad agency as a partner, but is there somebody there that can be a set of eyes, a consultancy, even a developer of creative for your marketing services for specific game types? So let's start with number 1, the technology overflow solutions. There are components to every lottery technology stack that can be strengthened through duplication. And an example is what we have announced earlier this year, our secondary draw system. This plugs into your existing vendor system and acts as a system of record. It allows you to actually develop draw games outside of the core system that you have with your primary vendor. Advantages to this, the biggest one is faster and less expensive game development. A system like this can be developed now and with a clean code base, and will just move faster, right? And will develop more quickly and therefore become less expensive. Austin, what do you talk about sort of the difference in having a code base that's set in the 10, 20, 30 years ago versus one that's set today, and how that helps in development and cost management, that sort of thing?
Well, obviously it's no mystery that the technology and software industry has evolved dramatically in the past couple decades. One of the huge innovations, well, I mean, 2 of them are obviously the mobile space, which didn't exist 15 years ago, the apps and that sort of thing. And then obviously the cloud. I mean, 20 years ago, if you wanted to start a business in any of these industries, first thing you did was run out and buy a bunch of servers. That was the first capital expenditure. Now you have the cloud. You can make much of your cost variable. that didn't used to be, and you can take advantage of some cutting edge technologies, whether it's from one of the major cloud vendors or from a lot of the solutions that are there to leverage that technology. There's a lot of buzzwords in the industry that actually translate into really meaningful technology that could come to bear on this industry, like microservices, containerization, these cloud-based infrastructure that's very scalable. But one of the things that's done is made it, huge innovations in areas of security, scalability, and doing things like hybrid solutions. The lottery industry in particular, you have the need to have some things in a particular jurisdiction, but you want to leverage some of the scalability of the cloud. So having those hybrid solutions that you can take advantage of, all of that was very, very difficult to do 20 years ago, if not impossible. And now, those solutions are becoming almost a commodity. And so being able to properly utilize those solutions really can impact your bottom line.
Yeah, and we've developed this draw system, and one of the things I was blown away by when you told me it was possible is we can develop a draw game. We develop a simple draw game in probably a day. Something with some complexity it'd take us a week, maybe two. That's just faster than what is currently out in the industry. And Austin, what do you give that to? Like, why is that such a disparity, or why don't you do it faster now?
Yeah, some of it is just the evolution of the industry and having the advantage of starting without a lot of technology debt incurred over the decades, and others is just using software development techniques that make it easy to really arrive at these very customizable solutions. There's a lot of things that go into that approach, from the software development languages used to using a lot of open source technology that wasn't available 20 years ago, to, like I said, the infrastructure available to us. So it really, if you leverage the tools at hand today, you can be an order of magnitude more productive than in prior years. And it really, I think when you speak of a technology solutions provider, you want somebody that knows how to leverage that those economies that have come in the technology industry.
Absolutely. Well said. The financial flexibility to pilot more game types. One of the problems we see for the draw side of the business is that there's a bit of a chicken and egg. You want to get something new out there, but it costs a lot of money, and you don't. Market research is really important, and we've done a lot of market research over the years, and we get consistent numbers from it. And so, we feel like that's probably a pretty good measure of what the possibility is. But there's nothing like in the market data. And so, if it costs, instead of $500,000 to build a game and implement it, if that game is $10,000 and tens of thousands of dollars, that's a game changer. That allows you to try new things. That allows you to to steal I think it's the Facebook axiom, fail faster. It's okay to have a launch and something that doesn't quite fire the way it needs to if the costs are down, and that's actually a responsible way to build a business. So this sort of overflow solution could really help there. Ability to seamlessly offer multi-state pooling for progressives. One of the things we've learned is how difficult that is. The networking that was established in the 80s and 90s on these systems has made it so that a pooling for a progressive becomes much more difficult across state lines, and there really isn't an elegant solution for that. But somebody who's specifically focused on a type of or piece of the technology stack could really help move things like that along. More easily develop existing game add-ons. So, when you're adding something onto a Powerball or a Mega Millions or your in-state lotto or even a numbers game, having a system that is able to move that project faster, forward more quickly, will realize the benefits of the profitability of that move more quickly as well. And then changes made to multi-state games, they won't slow down other priorities. And I think that's really important. That's probably one of the things I've seen that when I talk to a lottery, no one's mad at anybody for it because it's just part of what it is right now. But when you've got a calendar set aside and then it gets stopped for 2 or 3 months because of a decision made beyond your beyond your specific lottery, I can imagine that can be frustrating. And so how do you create something that'll allow you to transcend that issue and be able to still move forward even in a time in which you are taking on an unexpected game change? We're looking at unique content opportunities. Obviously, I think everyone knows our company as a company that does these live sports lottery games. That's a whole new content catalog, and that's part of what we're talking about here. We'd love to see a world in which there are all kinds of companies like us that are developing new draw concepts and being able to bring that content to the lotteries. New content advantages. A secondary technology partner, micro-focused on these new game content, drug content, will be able to help build the next big games for the future. We're always talking about in this industry, how do we build something that's going to be the next Powerball or be the next numbers game or help move the draw game category forward, which I think there's no secret that it continues to lose market share to the less profitable scratch-off category when you open up the ability for somebody to come in and have sort of a contractual connection to your lottery in the pursuit of new content opportunities. That's a huge moment for our lotteries, for the primary vendors and for a secondary technology partner to be able to all together move the industry forward and for all of us to make more money. Direct association with lotteries will allow secondary vendor leverage to unique game licensing. I mean, honestly, I'm shocked that we've been able to pull off what we have with 5 major sports licenses and yet haven't been in a place yet to launch any of those games, outside of the Win Play Show horse racing game. But we've brought in Major League Baseball, NBA, NHL, NASCAR, Team USA. But there are others that we've had to sort of leave on the sidelines for right now. And I have to imagine that if we had a direct connection to a state lottery from a contractual standpoint, that this would maybe make those conversations even easier. We create multi-state games, the central pooling system, and a minimal interruption for game changes. I think we've hit that a couple times already, but I think that's really important. If you can put up a 5-state multi-state game, even if it's 5 smaller states, you can create a really exciting game for your players. If we can put those up much faster than we have in the past, and I think that's a game changer as well. So, this is the number 3 is a customized technology solutions. This is, we're in the middle of the battle of day to day in your business, and something comes up and you need a new component to be able to bring into the into the solution and be able to solve a problem that you're having right now, something maybe you didn't even see coming up. Austin, what do you think about this? Talk about a little bit about sort of the needs of a sort of last minute technology solution.
Well, certainly, I mean, in every industry, including the prior industries, the need to respond to changes in the business, changes in the industry, and be very flexible and reactive to things is important, and that comes with a lot of challenges as a technology provider, because you've already planned out your development calendar and that sort of thing, and then you decide you want some new product. So that it's nice to have extra resources when those opportunities come about. And then like I've said, in this industry and every other, the cloud, mobile, all of these technologies are taking the world by storm, and it can be very overwhelming, as you kind of shift your business into these other areas, to take advantage of all those opportunities out there. And it pays to have a partner that really understands those pieces of the technology landscape, but also has that domain specific knowledge, understands the industry terminology, the regulatory environment, all of the various players in the industry and that sort of thing. So combining those two, I think, the idea would be to have resources, outside of your normal day to day that you could scale up, that would be experts in both the lottery industry and new technology.
Yeah, and I think you really hit it. It's not. There are a lot of technology companies out there, but there are not a lot of technology companies with domain expertise. And so, if this is a concept that catches on, whether it's us or somebody else that's in the space, like, it's really important that you have somebody who really understands the intricacies of this specific space. I've been in several industries in my life. There's something very customized and very special and specific about this industry, and sort of the convergence of state lotteries with private sector and a very specific type of player base. It creates a scenario in which really understanding the industry itself is vitally important. And it's just too much to ask for a primary vendor to be everything again, and to be able to react to every solution on the fly. These are big companies that have lots of different clients around the world, and for them to have that level of a micro care for the lottery, I don't think it's realistic. I think it would be unfair to say otherwise. Now, this is something that we have a really in-depth experience with when we launched Win Play Show in Kentucky, and that is the third-party integrations. A secondary system partner could handle these integrations and might open up a new pathway for you to more easily deliver third-party products. And what we've really developed here is the integration hub. So your secondary vendor could then actually move into being the provider of a third-party integration process. This is a very sketched out roadmap of what that looks like for the hub that we've built. This is the lottery balls on the left there are the machine that's to indicate a primary system. The gears on the right are to indicate the third-party vendors. And in the middle there is our middleware API hub that sort of serves as a grand central station for all connections. You would then move the API connections into that middleware, and that would allow for a significant portion of the integration process to be managed by somebody who was a little bit more dedicated to specifically that issue. So Austin, I know you've experienced this kind of concept of an integration hub in other industries. Go ahead and talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, I mean, again, not to belabor the financial industry example, but it is obvious, that's my experience, and there's a tremendous amount of data that we bring in, daily, from everything from, various pricing feeds, data, ratings agencies, research providers, all sorts of content from around the industry. And aggregating all of that data, sorting through, matching it up, making sure identifiers are paired correctly. I mean, there is a lot that goes into that. So everybody in the industry is dealing with that. So there has arisen groups that basically will sift through and aggregate that data for you and act as a third-party service for handling those integrations with the outside vendors.
Yeah, and go ahead and talk through these charts at sort of a high level. I know we have a mixture of probably technologists all the way to marketing and that sort of thing. But it'd be interesting to hear your thoughts here.
Yeah, when we thought about integrations, we've broken them into three categories. Which one would be these yellow boxes at the top, which are the kind of retail endpoints, whether it's iLottery or a kiosk or a traditional retail endpoint. Those are in-lane sales. Those are points of sale that will request, redeem, inquire about the status of a ticket or outcome of a ticket. So those are the yellow boxes, and that they need obviously to integrate in a standard way. The red boxes are what we've talked about our system, the secondary draw system, the other gaming engines that either have unique content or a unique way of generating a game. So the game providers themselves. And then the blue boxes are the more like the traditional systems vendors, the systems of record. They provide all your reporting, your accounting, interoperability with ICS, and really store and act as the system of record for all the transactions. So those are the three types of integrations that we focused on. And then, walking through the life cycle of a transaction in this diagram, you really, somebody requests a ticket. Does that vendor have permission to sell that game? And then you go down to, okay, which provider do we have that provides the logic for that game? And then we route that request to the proper game provider, generate the ticket, send it back to the retailer, and then get an acknowledgement, which then pairs up identifiers and pipes it on through to store it in the system of record. So, this life cycle allows us to touch on all those integration points. And then underpinning all of that, you also obviously have your audit logging. So if there's any breakpoints or failures along the way for that transaction, we can pinpoint in real time where that's occurring and have the appropriate monitoring. This is an example of a dashboard we've worked up. We have a lot of dashboards on the system. This one would allow you to monitor your sales in real time to see, hotspots by location, by time of day, see how long each transaction is taking to process. Any failures of a ticket issuance or redemption would show up in this table on the right. We also monitor our RNG to make sure that all of our odds match the true odds. So in this case, picking 10 numbers of 0 or 1, it should average out that each of them are at 0.5, and you see that it does there. So it's just a way to monitor all the ins and outs of the system, where any errors creep up, but also monitor your sales in real time.
Great, thank you. And then number 5 here is the mobile app development. There's obviously we're going to be moving there more and more as an industry. Already, nearly every lottery has at least a mobile engagement tool. However, more lotteries are going online. I'm sure many lotteries wish they were online last year as people were locked down in their homes. And so, this is definitely going to be one of those categories that explodes, and it's going to turn into the same situation where, you've got a primary and they can do a lot. And I tell you, I'm blown away by some of the platforms that are out there. Still doesn't mean that there isn't a potential role for a secondary here. And, the dedicated secondary vendor, again, with some sort of contractual relationship, allows for more aggressive scouting of new games, player engagement opportunities. I'll show you some things on the next slide here. Build specific mobile and web applications. He's going to create maximum player engagement through add-ons, giveaways, retention tools. Again, this isn't to say that the big providers out there aren't doing these things, but would you benefit from a second set of eyes? Maybe you will, maybe you won't. We'll see how this category develops. Offer more content unique to your lottery, these with a secondary technology partner that focuses on consistent and exciting content, that's going to meet the needs of your players. Having somebody who not only just bringing content to a lottery, but bringing content to the specific lottery is very different. I know as a content developer myself, I feel sometimes after I've put together a presentation for a lottery, or we put together a suite of games and we start to shop them to different lotteries, sometimes I feel like they missed the mark because they weren't crafted specifically for that lottery. They were crafted more in a general sense. And if I had a specific relationship with that lottery, maybe we could have created something that would really have worked in that state with that player base. Every state has a little different nuance. Obviously the different regions of the country are going to have different playing habits and desires and proclivications and that sort of thing. So this would also go back to the content section, but can we create content that really specifically meets the needs of that lottery? Some examples, I'm going to just real quickly show a couple of things that we're in development on, but also show you another third party to show you kind of how that might work. But we've developed a game that we're calling Next Pitch Live, and this is a chance for players to have a double or nothing type game based on a pitch by pitch within an actual baseball game. Of course, everything being picked by an RNG, which makes it a game of chance. But that's something that's not out there right now. With a third or a secondary technology partner be able to help there. This is turning the strike zone into a Keno board. Again, what can we do to move the industry forward? How can we take existing game concepts like double or nothing and Keno and turn them into really exciting games that transcend what players think of when they think of lottery? Other game content can be brought in from companies, that develop games in other parallel industries. So there's a lot of great content out there in the iGaming industry. There's a lot of great content that's coming in from overseas, and they're not necessarily pointed at the lottery industry, but we've started to become associated with a company called Present Creative, who has developed a lot of great titles in the iGaming slots industry. There's not a huge difference in the core appeal of those games to what we have sort of evolving in the iLottery space, but a lot of those companies don't feel like they're going to have a lot of investment of time and energy in order to create a footprint large enough to be considered in the lottery industry. So are there certain companies that could bring those types of opportunities to you that can help broaden your content calendar? Content is king on these mobile platforms, especially. I know the games are always being rotated in and out. And so how do we continue to fill that pipeline? And then finally, and this is, like I said at the beginning, number 6 for a reason, the idea of having a company that could help you with brand guidelines, style guides, go-to-market strategies. Again, this is much more for a lottery that doesn't have a sort of full-time focus from their ad agency, either because of resources or perceived need. And could we take that and could there be a partner that comes in and helps along those lines as well? So again, what are the key qualities of this contracted secondary technology partner? One, a strong technology team able to develop, in the most modern code and technique for efficient development, an industry provider who understands the strengths and weaknesses of how lotteries are currently constructed, understands the realities of what's out there, knows how to push the envelope, but knows that there are limits and is able to work within those limits. And you really can only get that by being in the industry. We've been in the industry now 7 years, and I think that's starting to show as we really understand the unique challenges that lotteries have. A game studio that allows for next level content creation, and I would also put in that bringing in other game studios that bring in that content creation, and then a vision for what the future of lottery and gaming holds. Fortunately, we do know a company that qualifies. I'm being a little facetious here. The point here is not to be specifically a sales piece for us, but to talk about this concept in a much broader sense. Obviously, we're talking about this concept because it's a concept we feel very equipped to be able to fill as a role. But we are excited about this as a potential for the industry, so that it can continue to show innovation and continue to meet its players' needs, and to even at times lead its players into new types of game designs and content. So thank you very much for your time. I appreciate the opportunity to share with you this vision, and we'll stop now for any questions you might have.
Brad, Austin, thank you guys very much. Very insightful, and we appreciate you taking the time to hold this presentation. That said, if anyone does have any questions, there is that Q&A box over there on your right. We do have one that came in, and it might spark some other questions. But the question is, do you envision the secondary vendor concept being a competitor to our existing vendor?
Oh, no, not at all. We think that would the primary vendor does so many things so well, and it's a much larger footprint. And in fact, I would say that this sort of role would be best served by a company that isn't in the position to even be a primary vendor. You don't want somebody who has a very macro view of the industry. You're looking, I think, in this concept, you're looking for somebody who can come in and help you in some specific places that might be dependencies or needs for your lottery, to have somebody that could even compete on the level of a broader primary vendor, I think would be antithetical to the concept.
Thank you. And let me check one more. And it looks like that was the only question that did come in. Ladies and gentlemen, Brad and Austin both have their email addresses on the slide right here. So I would assume they would not mind at all if anyone reached out if they had any further questions.
Yeah. Sometimes we feel lonely, so just say hi, if nothing else.
Well, Brad and Austin, thank you guys once again. We really appreciate it.